Hi, welcome to the marketplace. Coming up this afternoon, we have the latest updates from the financial markets. Interest rates fall for the 9th consecutive week as government records 19.9% oversubscription of T-bills. Also coming up, International Center for Tax and Development appeals to government to reassess the e-levy to make it more effective.
And that maybe when you introduce a tax such as this, it may affect the growth in the mobile money market. Actually, the impact that we saw was only modest and only temporary. And in the long run, it seems that the growth in mobile money usage has continued in spite of the tax.
Also coming up, one-on-one with Chair of the International Chamber of Commerce, Maria Fernanda Garza, who is visiting Ghana as part of an African tour. My name is Daryl. Kwawu. Thanks for being with us this afternoon. Details coming up. All right, thanks for staying with us. We begin with your financial markets update this Monday. Interest rates have fallen for the 9th week running in line with analyst forecasts. According to auction results by the Bank of Ghana, the government recorded about 19.9% oversubscription of the Treasury Bills as demand for the short-term instruments remained high. Patrick Edem Agama joins me with the latest updates. He's head of trading at Republic Securities. Patrick, what's the rundown from the auction last Friday?
Well, good afternoon, Daryl. So on the money market, we saw the government raising a total of 4.9 billion against a target of 4.1 billion Ghana cedis. Again, we've seen that across the curve, we've seen the rates coming down. The 91-day declined by 28 basis points to clear at 26.99. We saw the 182-day closing at 29.49, dropping by 25 basis points. And also, we saw the 364-day closing at 30.09 to decrease by 28 basis points.
All right. And as we have seen over time, interest rates continue to fall. Our government is still able to meet some of its targets. Rating agency Fitch expects Treasury bill yields to decline this year as the government progresses with the external debt restructuring or as the economy recovers. However, it expects T-bill yields to remain high by historical standards in its latest assessment of the Ghanaian economy. Is that what you see too?
Well, what we are saying is that the rates have actually declined this year, looking at the level we saw last year. For instance, last year, February, we were around the 35.67 region for the 91-day. But for this year, we've seen them decline into the 26 level. So we are actually expecting the rates to decline. We've also seen that the pricing guidance is holding, and it gives the government that control over the rates over the period. However, investors are watching closely to see how inflation reacts. We've seen the January inflation already rising. If February follows and March follows the same trend, I doubt if the pricing guidance will be able to hold again to determine the way forward for these rates.
Well, last week, the former finance minister, Seth Terkper, said that government cannot sustain its expenditure solely from Treasury bills. I thought it was remarkable because we had a conversation about this a couple of weeks ago. Your thoughts on this latest concern or warning, if you like, from the former finance minister? Have you gotten to a point where we should be concerned about government borrowing from the Treasury market?
Well, it's actually a concern for the market operators and everyone in this market because, you know, as the rates are rising, we expect actually the appetite of government to be decreasing, but it's actually the other way around. You see the appetite actually is increasing. Like, for instance, in the coming week, we have short-term maturities, about 3.7 billion that's maturing. But the target for government is 4.2 billion. So it's like they are going to collect 500 million more than what they need to retire the existing securities. So as we keep going, it should tell you that in 3 to 6 months' time, government will actually have to cough out more money to retire these securities. And that's a bit worrying.
All right, let's switch to the stock market. The share prices of Ecobank Ghana and MTN Ghana are expected to surge this week. Tell us how the market is performing and what the outlook is like.
All right, so on the stock market, we've seen that Total and MTN dominated trade volumes by 76 and 10% respectively. We saw that Ecobank Ghana led the gainers by 10%, gaining about 10.91 in value last week. We are seeing that the composite index has actually reached 4.72%, whilst the financial stock index is actually 5%, which is just 2 months into the year, and that's impressive for the market. We've seen also a dip in farm milk. It was actually the sole loser, losing some pesos to close at 3.3 Ghana cedis per share. We are actually seeing a rise in MTN as at the moment for today's market. We've seen that the stock is actually being sought of by so many investors because of their dividend that was announced in their financials. So we expect this to continue to the end of March, where that will be the ex-dividend date, and then we expect the desire to die down a bit.
Anything else to be on the lookout for this week?
Well, for this week, we are expecting the first coupon payment for the cocoa bonds to hit this week, alongside the new dollar bond. Their first interest payment is supposed to hit this week. We will be actually observing where investors will push this money, looking at what's also happening in the Treasury Bill market.
All right, thank you very much. Great to speak with you, Patrick Edemagama, Head of Trading at Republic Securities. Now, the International Center for Tax and Development has appealed to government to reassess the e-levy to make the tax more effective. The center believes a review will help address public misconceptions about the tax and make it more effective. Here's Matilda Ajato's report.
Ghana's e-levy, introduced in May 2022, stirred waves of debate within the country's financial landscape. Despite its contentious nature, the International Center for Tax and Development, in partnership with the Ghana Revenue Authority, has highlighted the importance of digital financial service taxation in Ghana and reviewed the impact of the mobile money taxation on the country. Martin Hessen is the Research Director of the International Center for Tax and Development. He stressed the importance of informed discussions on key findings regarding the impact of the tax on the mobile money market, especially the
e-levy in Ghana is an important tax. It's raising over 1 billion cedi of revenue each year. It's also clearly a tax that's going to be reviewed and debated in the election campaign this year. So it's important that we have strong, solid research on which to debate the discussion. Some of the things that we found from our research are, firstly, well, there's some concern that maybe when you introduce a tax such as this, it may affect the growth in the mobile money market. Actually, the impact that we saw was only modest and only temporary. And in the long run, it seems that the growth in mobile money usage has continued in spite of the tax. Secondly, we looked a little bit at the impact on individuals. And we found that while the tax does affect the poor more than it affects wealthier people, in the design it's maybe among the more progressive of taxes that we see of this nature across Africa. And one key reason for that is the exemption threshold of 100 cedi per day on transactions, which actually does a lot to protect the poor.
The Deputy Commissioner in charge of Strategy, Research, Policy and Programs at the Ghana Revenue Authority, Charles Adair, said the challenges faced in implementing the mobile money levy introduced in Ghana must guide future policy decisions. The e-levy was reduced from 1.5% to 1% after several agitations from some business groups, political parties and the public.
In 2022, some amount of about 600 million was collected. Rather, in 2023, we were able to improve on this performance, and we raised almost 1.2 billion from the e-levy. The idea is, how can we improve tax revenue without burdening the existing taxpayers? So we are always looking for an approach, new areas to tap into the informal sector so that everybody in Ghana will contribute his quota in revenue collection. The formal system has depended on existing businesses, employees, in always raising the national revenue. And there's a need for us to go into the informal sector to be able to raise revenue to support the country. We always have the challenge that Ghana tax to GDP is below our peer countries.
All right, you're watching The Marketplace. Now, the chair of the International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, Maria Fernanda Garza, is on a tour of Africa and has chosen Ghana as the first country for her visit. Garza took over as chair from Ajay Banga, who is now president of the World Bank. Now, the mission of the ICC is to make business work for everyone by promoting open international trade and investment systems that foster peace, prosperity, and opportunity for all. Garza's visit comes on the heels of the ICC's successful participation in the World Trade Organization's Ministerial Conference, MC13, in Abu Dhabi. And she's in studio with me this afternoon. Great to have you, Ma'am, in the studio. First trip to Ghana?
First time to Ghana, yes.
What would you say about hospitality here in Ghana?
It is amazing. I mean, I've been just here for 24 hours, but I realized that the most valuable treasure that Ghana has is their people.
Oh, wow. Wow. We're happy to have you. And so, like I mentioned in my intro, you attended the WTO MC13 conference in Abu Dhabi, especially there were talks on the extension on the moratorium on e-commerce. Tell us more about that conference and the highlights, you think.
Well, it was very interesting to see how the whole business sector round up in the conference to present what the business community needs from the WTO. And basically what we need is certainty. So it was a little bit disappointed to see that we were not able to come with a clear and explicit renewal of the WTO's moratorium on tariff cross-border data flows.
Why is that?
That is, in 1998, when internet was starting and e-commerce was beginning, countries that members of the WTO came together and created this moratorium. So all governments agree not to place tariffs on data transfer and e-commerce. And that was the reason, one of the reasons why e-commerce and the internet grew so much with all its potential. So now we're seeing that there are many voices from governments that want to place tariffs for data transfer. So imagine what that would mean, in particularly for small businesses that rely on the new technologies to be part of this whole trade, global trade.
And so what does that mean, as there's no consensus right now on issues concerning e-commerce, for instance? Well,
not having a consensus on renewing the moratoria or making it definitely is creating uncertainty. And unfortunately, right now, around the world, we're living on very uncertain times. And business needs to have the security to invest. So we're afraid that by this outcome, the investments that are much needed will chill out.
Okay. Your visit to Ghana is coinciding with the 10th anniversary launch of ICC Ghana. Tell us what has been achieved over the years.
It is amazing what ICC Ghana has achieved during the last 10 years because it only restarted its operation in 2014. For example, for ICC, it means to have a partner in one of the most dynamic economies in Africa. But also the capacity building and training programs that ICC Ghana has been promoting, not only for lawyers and arbitrators, but for people that it's involved in global trade, has really make a difference. Let me give you an example. The INCO terms, the international commercial terms. These are voluntary rules that are created by the users of them and are used all around the world in all commercial operations. Basically what they do is that they clarify the responsibilities that buyers and sellers have in trade. So this is very important. And Ghana's National Committee provides with the training so the exporters and importers understand how to utilize correctly these tools. Also, Ghana had a very important role in the trade facilitation, the establishment of the trade facilitation agreement here in Ghana, the single window that is on its way to be fully implemented. So business in Ghana have already started to feel the benefits of being part of a global business community.
All right, I want to talk about the ICC tools on combating corruption, because you're going to launch that as well. Why those tools and how useful would it be?
Well, in the late 1970s, ICC was the first business organization to recognize that business, yes, was part of the problem in corruption, but it also was part of the solution. So since then, we have launched a series of tools for businesses to become work with more integrity, because it has been proven that corruption is not a very wise business strategy. In the short term, it might look as a good idea, but in the long term, it never works out, neither for the business, the community, or the country. So with the tools that we have been creating, we have been supporting businesses around the world to create a framework inside their business to guard themselves against corruption. So these tools guide businesses on all the steps they need to follow to create a safe environment.
All right, you have a lot on your plate, because I'm also, as part of your itinerary, you're launching the second ICC Africa Sustainable Supply Chain Summit after a successful meeting event in Ghana last year. I want to ask you about how does Africa resolve our supply chain challenges, to take a cue from the experience of the Americas?
I see two venues that need to be worked at the same time. First, you need to lower the red tape barriers. You need to make trade easy for companies. But on the other side, you also need to start working on the infrastructure needed for these businesses to operate among themselves. And what is happening today in Africa is something very similar that is happening in other regions of the world. For example, my own region, Latin America. And it's that we do not have the right infrastructure to trade among ourselves. So that is why this event on supply chain is so important, because it will identify the challenges that the African countries have in both infrastructure, but also in trade facilitation.
Okay, I'm just going to read a bit of your portfolio so that people know who you are. You're CEO of Orestia,
yes.
Is that right? A manufacturing home improvement solutions company based in Mexico with exports to the USMCA region, Latin America and Asia. And of course, you're a lifelong advocate for SMEs in your home country as well. And so your journey from being a startup to a world leader, what sort of advice would you give to small businesses and also women-led businesses?
Well, get involved. The reason I started my company right after coming out of college, and we specialize in manufacturing water-saving devices, which is part of plumbing. So we grew up in the plumbing industry. And a couple of months after becoming a business woman in Mexico, I realized how difficult the environment was for anybody to start up a company, to grow it and to be successful. Sometimes it seems that everything was working against me. So obviously I start complaining. And then somebody told me, it doesn't make any good to complain by yourself. Why don't you join a business organization and start working with other business people that want to change things and want to present a case to the government. And I remember at that time we were working to establish an independent centralized bank in Mexico. So we were in the very basics, and we were successful. So that gave me more courage and determination to continue. And that's how I keep on working. I mean, along with growing my business and growing my family, I also devoted part of my time to work at a business organization. Later, in the early 1990s, in 1991, I became involved with ICC, and since then I have not stopped, because I believe that this is a way to give back to society, and also to make sure that I contribute for a better world.
Okay. While you're here, and because you're from Mexico, we can talk about Ghana-Mexico trade. What's been the relationship over time, and how can both countries improve trade?
I don't think it has been established yet. I mean, there might be some relationship in sports maybe, and maybe some trade, but nothing that has been systematic established. Mm-hmm. And I believe there are many, many opportunities for both our countries to interconnect. But the most important thing will be that Ghana can learn from the Mexico experience. When I started my company in 1986, Mexico has just entered the GATT, this agreement, a month before. So my company experienced what Mexico, this Mexican transformation into a very, very close market to an open market. So I was able to reap all the benefits of this for my company, even though I was not involved, for example, in the auto manufacturing industry. It is the most successful case for Mexico trade, opening trade.
Okay.
So I think that by looking at the example of Mexico and how we were able to open ourselves, then we can support you in open yourselves to the world.
Okay, we're looking forward to that. And so after Ghana, where next? Which other country are you going?
Cameroon.
Cameroon, okay.
And then Marrakesh.
All right, okay. Any last words as we conclude for your audience?
Well, I would just like to invite all businesses that are interested or are currently dealing in international trade to join ICC Ghana, because ICC Ghana will be a window to the world, but also will give you access to all the knowledge that you need to have in order to access global markets. But also, it is for us at ICC, as a global business organization, to have the voices of the Ghanaian businesses in all our policy deals that we're doing. It is very, very important for Ghanaian business to participate, to be heard worldwide.
Maria Fernanda Gaza, a new chair of the International Chamber of Commerce. I appreciate your time with us.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully we'll be at the 10th anniversary launch of the International Chamber of Commerce. Ghana, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Well, in other news, the Ghana Trade Fair Company says it will deepen its support for local businesses to embark on export. This is on the back of a report by Oxford Africa Women Leadership Institute that indicates that over 90% of women-led businesses have not exported. According to Chief Executive Dr. Agnes Edu, the company will invest more in e-commerce to support these businesses. She spoke to Joy Business at the 28th Ghana International Trade Fair.
The Ghana International Trade Fair aims to positively impact Ghana's economy by establishing an e-commerce platform. Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Trade Fair Company Limited, Dr. Agnes Edu, said the e-commerce platform will expand the operations of local businesses.
The 28th International Trade Fair is exactly that. It's a platform we create for small businesses to be able to thrive and grow. As you can see, when you look around the grounds, there are all things made in Ghana here. And this is a platform that we have created to make sure that Ghanaian businesses have an outlet and somewhere to go to showcase products and also to move there. Every Trade Fair Company Limited is a trade promotion, trade facilitation organization. So what we do is connect the small business to GEPA or to NBSSI by creating these unique platforms. This year's theme, I mentioned earlier, that it is e-commerce that we are focusing on. That is one way to support local produce.
Some vendors at the International Trade Fair encourage Ghanaians to support local products.
Normally, to have my business there, when we normally come here, I get a lot of orders. People come to order.
Okay, we are looking forward to see our customers to come in and buy the things. The things is affordable, it's very cheap, and we have reduced things to clear off, so people should come in and buy for us.
The fair is poised to contribute significantly to SME growth through the integration of e-commerce into the country's business landscape.
Now, the Ghana Armed Forces is constructing a forward operating base for the military at Anyancherem near Obuasi in the Ashanti region. The project, expected to be executed within 24 months, will provide offices, medical posts, accommodation for all ranks, a multi-purpose hall, as well as logistics installations. The $6 million US dollar project, funded by Anglo Gold Ashanti Obuasi Mine, will contribute to enhancing security in Obuasi and surrounding areas. Here's a report by Clinton Abua.
The Obuasi municipality has in recent times witnessed illegal mining and its associating criminal activities, hampering the operations of businesses and lives. This reason influenced the establishment of a forward operating base in the Obuasi municipality. The project, fully sponsored by Anglo Gold Ashanti, is in sync with the Ghana Armed Forces' decision to establish a forward operating base at several locations across the country to protect Ghana's land borders and ensure the safety of all persons, infrastructure and investments within Ghana. The forward operating base in Obuasi is designed to contain a force element of about half a battalion. The project will have command and control centers, medical aid facilities, helipad, training sheds, recreational areas, an administration block, quartermaster yard and garage, and workshop. Major General Bismarck Kwesi Ongona is the Chief of Army Staff of the Ghana Armed Forces. He indicated the project, which will accommodate 350 military personnel, will deliver timely intelligence, secured communication, and rapid reaction to incidents.
It also reflects the concept of whole of society approach, which is part of the basic ways by which, as a country, we seek to attain the ends of our National Security Strategy 2020. This forward operating base is but one of several others to be built across the country, mainly along the northern frontiers.
All right, and that's the marketplace. More news on our website, myjournline.com/business. We're leaving you.